And joining me now, National Republican consultant Caton Dawson, Bruce Bartlett, former economic advisor to President George H.W. Bush, and Sarah Isgur Flores, former deputy campaign manager for Carly Fiorina. All right, thank you all for being here. Let's first talk, Caton, about whether or not you think it could actually work to put a conscience clause into the Rules Committee at the convention, and whether or not it is the right thing to do in your view.
Okay, as a delegate to the convention coming up and numerous past conventions, and a member of the RNC for 8 years, it's pretty hard to do. The Rules Committee is there for this reason, to make the rules for the convention. It can. I don't foresee that. There are 112 members of the Rules Committee, so I won't get into the sausage-making part of it. It could happen. I doubt it very seriously. Donald Trump's locomotive came through. He's won the nomination. People aren't happy with it. We've got two interesting conventions coming. We've got a faction of each party that aren't happy with what's going on, but that large faction's not coming to these conventions. So we'll see. I don't think it will. There are people still trying to wrap their arms around Donald Trump being the nominee, and how unconventional he is, and times are different.
Yeah, and you know, I'll bring this to you as well, Sarah, there is this question of the small d Democratic question, right? If you had millions of people vote for Donald Trump, you were supporting Carly Fiorina, his opponent, but Trump won. Do you think philosophically there is a problem with inserting a clause into the Rules Committee, even if it could be done? And Caton has said it can't, but even if it could be done, do you think it would be the right thing to do?
I think letting delegates vote their conscience is a completely acceptable thing. That's how the process works. I think even then, though, it will actually still turn out to be the nomination of Donald Trump, because so many of those delegates will feel a responsibility to the voters of their state. That being said, as others have said, the Republican Party right now is engaged to Donald Trump. They're not married yet. The wedding's at the convention, and plenty of engagements do get broken off.
And, you know, Bruce, you've had Donald Trump come out and make a statement in response to this news that there is this new Never Trump movement that's brewing from the convention. He said any such move would be not only totally illegal, but also a rebuke to the millions of people who feel so strongly about what I'm saying. And then I also want to play you what he said last night in Texas at his rally, disputing the very idea that there is opposition to him. Take a listen.
The party is actually liking me. You know, I'm an outsider. I'm an outsider, and historically, they don't love the outsiders, but I think they're starting to like me, and maybe there'll be a few. You know, you don't hear about the tremendous numbers of people, and I'm even talking about the politicians that are totally supportive.
So, Bruce, you have Donald Trump essentially saying that the movement to oust him is what is fringe in the party. What do you make of that?
Well, I think he's exactly right about that. Not only would it be anti-democratic in the sense you'd be disenfranchising 13 million Republican voters, but there's no obvious alternative to Trump. Is Ted Cruz going to suddenly be the nominee? I don't see it. And furthermore, if Trump were somehow or other dumped, he would have a tremendous incentive to simply burn the entire Republican Party to the ground. He'll be on every cable channel every single night, talking, trashing his own party, and lots of his supporters are going to eat it up. He may very well even say, vote for Hillary. I do believe there will be a substantial Republicans for Hillary operation, and I think that it's going to doom the Republican Party.
And I mean, Caton, isn't that the idea as well, is that Donald Trump does have a constituency? He could, in theory, inspire his followers to vote third party, to vote for him if he decided to run third party. There's still damage he could do. He's
going to be on the ballot. He's going to pick a vice presidential nominee at some time. It could be a movie star. It could be a sports star. It could be a politician. Who knows? It'll be Donald's choice. It's unconventional what he's doing. And the Republican Party and the Democrat Party will both survive after this.
Or the Democratic Party.
The Democratic Party will survive after this. But it's interesting that there's a lot of pundits. This is now June. Ronald Reagan was 18 points behind Jimmy Carter. The same things were being said. We have more news, more things. This thing is Labor Day until November. But what I said earlier with our other host was it's an organizational thing, and that's what Donald Trump's not doing. Barack Obama has been president of the United States for 2 terms because of charisma, organization, and message. So Donald Trump's doesn't have that organization. That is not what won him the primary. It is what won Barack Obama's primary. So I think that makes the interesting sausage-making process of the electoral things that are going on now. So I would tell there's no panic yet. The Republican Party is upset. People are worried about keeping the majorities. Donald Trump's message will change some. But the way he got there is probably the way he's going to continue the campaign, which is running against Washington that people are extremely on both sides mad with. Bernie's people are mad. The base is supporting Donald Trump are mad, so we'll see how this shakes out as the summer gets hotter.
And I mean, Sarah, you know, that sounds to me what Caitlin is describing is a primary strategy, a strategy that works in a Republican primary with a primarily white electorate. But then when you broaden it out, and you're talking about an electorate that could be 30% people of color, that's going to be more than half women, isn't it problematic if Trump just continues to be Trump and do the things that he's been doing to win the primary?
And we've seen that over the last month. He could have spent the last month beating up on Hillary, bringing up all of her scandals, the foundation corruption, the email server, and really define Hillary's narrative going into this summer. And instead, he's made it a referendum on himself. He's shown a lack of discipline. He hasn't been calling donors. He hasn't been visiting swing states. It's been a disaster. And respectfully, I disagree with the other panelists. I think this very well could be the end of the Republican Party. And the fact that if Donald Trump doesn't get his way, he thinks that he would encourage people to vote for Hillary sort of tells you everything you need to know. This guy isn't a Republican. But I think he's doing everything he can to lose this general election. And we see that over and over again in the lack of organization, the lack of discipline, and that he has yet to criticize Hillary Clinton nearly as much as he criticizes his fellow Republicans.
But, you know, Bruce, you know, that leads me to kind of a fundamental question of what it is that the establishment, that the John Kasichs of the world, that the Paul Ryan sort of reluctant folks in the world, what is it that they're concerned about? Is it the fact that Donald Trump is not organizationally helping the institution of the Republican Party, or is it the underlying sort of troubling nature of some of his actual comments? Is it the America First stuff that sort of reminds one of the 1930s anti-intervention in World War II part of the American electorate? Is it the slams on a Mexican-American judge implying that only a white judge could properly judge him? Which of those two things is really troubling the party?
Well, I think they're very upset about the substance of what he's saying, but I think they're even more worried about this being a wave election that brings down Republicans across the board, losing the Senate, losing the House, losing governorships, teeing up the Democratic Party for possibly redistricting in the year 2000 after the census, and basically putting the Democrats in charge, as the Republicans have been for quite a few years. I think they're just desperately afraid they're going to go down with the ship.
And you know, Caitlin, and I ask you this as, you know, my friend from South Carolina, you have seen the Republican Party become a largely Southern party, a very regional party, and some of the sort of existential changes in the party have to do with tone, have to do with sort of being off-putting to people of color, have to do with not being able to grow. Do you have a concern as a Republican, as a lifelong Republican, that Donald Trump will do long-term damage, further damage to a party that's already struggling in those areas? And is that in and of itself a reason to launch a Never Trump movement?
Well, it's especially for the southern corridor, southeastern corridor, where the Barack Obama's presidency has given us a majority all through the South and gave us over 1,000 legislative seats all over the country. So we had some success with the Democratic president. The tone and what he said bothers us when you have Tim Scott as an African-American Republican senator, Nikki Haley, our governor. Just in the state I'm from, we've worked really hard to change the tone, and there's a lot more work to do, but we can show electoral success from that. So that's been our concern with Trump. He's knocked down or put up barriers to a lot of places we need to win. I'm most concerned with the Hispanic vote. There's 6 states out there that if you can't win, you can't become president. And I haven't seen where Donald Trump has attracted that vote the way he says they're going to love me. Well, that's the one that concerns me. And the tone concerns me because Republicans have worked all over the country to be a more open and honest party. We won the House, we won the Senate in some reasons. I don't say that Donald Trump's a single factor. If he loses, it will cause us that. But there's a lot of angst out there, and that's that people are worried about their own jobs in the United States House and Senate, and that rightfully so.
And Sarah, you know, you supported Carly Fiorina, who was attempting to become the first woman president. You know, Republicans have enjoyed a gender advantage with white women that has been as high as 14%. That was what Mitt Romney enjoyed over Barack Obama in 2012. Is there a concern that with Donald Trump at the top of the ticket, Democrats could even out that advantage, particularly with white women and with married women?
Well, I think that the concern with Donald Trump is that he will lose in a blowout, which will take down Senate candidates with him. And then I think it will be across demographics. I think that what he was able to do in the primary just can't be replicated, again, without a campaign organization, without marrying up with the RNC, and without visiting swing states, calling donors, any of the campaign basics that he's not doing. So I don't think you'll see any single demographic shift so much as I think you potentially will see all of them shift. And it will be a very bad election for Republicans. And once again, Republicans will have snatched defeat from the jaws of victory against potentially the worst Democratic nominee there's been. She's under investigation by the FBI for leaking national security, basically.
She's actually not accused of leaking
it'll be
national
amazing
security,
for Republicans to lose this.
And I'll give you the final word on this, Bruce Bartlett. Given the fact that you do have all of these concerns about a potential blowout election, at the end of the day, is the principle of attempting to undermine the process at the convention, in your mind, sound?
No, I think it's ridiculous, and I don't think any future Republican wanting to run for his party's nomination is going to want to have an easy out for anybody who opposes him. I think this is absurd and will die in the crib.
All right. Well, thank you very much to Kate and Dawson, Bruce Bartlett, and Sarah Isgur Flores, getting those points in about Hillary Clinton wherever you can. Good try on that one.